Hey there, friends. It's your pal Madge here in my garden in the city of Pittsburgh. Welcome. It's the first week of fall, but we still have a lot of flowers to work on from the past, the present, and the future. First thing, we're going to save some seeds from some of the biggest, baddest zinnias we grew this season. Then we have some plants to get into the ground. There's a autumn joy sedum that I think is going to make the winter garden a little prettier and give the birds a little something to nibble on. And a bunch of tiny plugs that, with any luck, will grow into enormous delphiniums and campanulas and foxgloves next spring. All that, and this garden is still pumping out a very respectable number of flowers. So we got to grab them while we can. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to do today is check out these zinnia seeds. I have never saved zinnia seeds before, so we're going to pull apart one of these blooms and see what we can find inside. So here are our zinnia blooms. Basically, anytime I had a particularly gorgeous one, like one of those big fluffy ombre boys that we grew earlier this summer, and it started to die in the vase, I just plucked it out and stuck it in this pitcher so that it could dry out. Now, when we pull this apart, we should find some seeds inside. Let's take a look.
Starting from the bottom of the flower, I am pulling off some of these petals to see if I can find seeds attached. And look, there they are. The little firm spade-shaped pieces attached to the bottom of the petal are the seeds. Now these are the right color, they look dry, and they are firm, which I think means they're viable. I'm not exactly sure, because like I said, I've not done this before, but they look like zinnia seeds that I've planted in the past. So let's pull off a few more and see what we get. They're looking the same as I pull more and more off of them. I kind of expect them to have a little bit more thickness to them, a little bit more dimension. So I'm not exactly sure if these are going to sprout, if they're viable. It's possible that this flower did not get pollinated, but it's unlikely because I left these flowers on the plant for a long time. And we have had a lot of bees, as you've seen. So I think I'm just going to take a few of these seeds and plant them in this pot of soil right here, just to see if they sprout. It's really late in the season. We're probably going to get our first frost in about a month. So I'm not expecting to get any flowers off of these or anything like that. I just want to take a few seeds from each of these blooms and plant them and see if they germinate. If they do, we are going to be rolling in zinnias come next spring, my friend. And if they don't, well, you know I bought plenty more zinnias for next season. Each of these was planted close enough to other varieties that they're not going to come true to the parent plant. So it'll be interesting to see if they do sprout, what the flowers look like. At least we know one of the parents was a big baddie. So that increases the likelihood that the baby plants are going to be big and beautiful as well.
And I'll just keep these watered over the next week or so. It's supposed to be sunny and not too cold. So I'll just leave them up here on the porch in the sunshine, and we'll see if anything starts to sprout. I really hope it does. While I get these inside and get some water on the seeds that we planted, I'm going to take you back in time to yesterday, to when I planted my autumn joy sedum and all my little plugs from Farmer Bailey. I'm at the base of my deck next to these big dahlias that I grew from seed that are buzzing with bees. Let's see if I can avoid disturbing them as I do this. There was a smaller dahlia here. I took that out because I have this big, beautiful autumn joy sedum that I want to plant here.
As you've seen me do before, I'm using my half moon edger to loosen up this soil. But honestly, this soil is in beautiful shape already. It's very soft. We haven't been walking on it or anything throughout the season, so it's not very compacted. And it is basically ready to take this plant. I'm just going to add some of this nice compost from the garden center and work it into the existing soil a little bit, and then we will be ready to plant. I'm taking this guy out of the pot, and you can see how big it is. And I actually tried to saw the root system in half to divide the plant, and I really just succeeded in breaking off a couple of stalks, which, these things happen. So I just went ahead and stuck the broken stalks into the soil because I read that sedum is really easy to propagate. And if the soil is moist enough, maybe it'll root out and live. If not, the piece that's left is still pretty big. So I think it will be fine. And I really like this plant. It's going to stay tall and the blossoms are going to stay on it throughout the whole winter. So as it gets cold, as there's snow, it's just going to be one cute little thing to look at in a sea of brown and gray, like we always get in the city of Pittsburgh in the winter. I think this plant is looking pretty cute here. There was one little piece that was broken off, so I'm just going to break it all the way off and stick it in the soil and see if anything happens. My next step is to plant a bunch of plugs, but before I did that, I just wanted to show you all of the strawberries that are coming in. Crazy, right? We're getting like 2 or 3 a day, and they are yummy. Now for the big manual labor of the day, which is to plant out 64 plugs from Farmer Bailey. I have 2 different varieties of delphinium. One is called Cliveden Beauty, and the other is a Guardian Mix. I also have a mix of foxgloves in the Dalmatian variety, so they're pretty cute. They have little spots on them. Then I have 2 different colors of campanula. 3 colors: dark blue, lilac, and white. And a new kind of snapdragon that I have never seen before. It's called Snapstar, and I got them in the color pink. So I'm planting all of these out in this new little C-shaped bed that my husband created. And I'm giving the delphiniums and the foxglove about 9 inches between them, because with any luck, they're going to get pretty big vertically, but they don't take up a huge amount of room horizontally. The foxgloves are about the same. I'm giving them about 9 inches in between them, and the snaps and the campanula, I'm giving them about 6 inches. As I'm laying these out, I don't really want it to be like 1 row of light blue delphinium and 1 row of darker delphinium. I want them to be mixed up. So I'm making little clumps of each variety and sort of alternating the delphiniums with the foxgloves. Some of y'all may recall that I also got plugs from Farmer Bailey in the spring. That's where I got my lisianthus, and they turned out great. So I'm hoping that the same thing holds true with these guys. This is a pretty challenging task for me. I have to get pretty far out into the middle of this bed to get these plants snuggled into the soil. But I'm just trying to take my time. I'm using my tools. I'm taking a little break when I need to. And before too long, the job will be done. To reach the very center of the bed, I have to get down on my knees, my favorite thing. But using the kneeler and my go-go gadget arm, Japanese hand hoe, I am able to get everything planted, and they're looking really good now.
I'm very excited to have that sedum planted and to have these delphiniums and foxgloves and campanulas and snapdragons planted for next spring. The delphiniums especially, they're supposed to get like 5 or 6 feet tall if you're lucky, and they might perennialize and come back every year. But all that being said, there are still hella flowers in this garden right now. Let's go get some.
These snaps are looking so much better than they were 2 weeks ago when we amended them with the mushroom compost. I'm excited to cut some and play with them. It's not just the snapdragons that are looking good either. I'm cutting a bunch of those now, but you can see we also have some more enormous zinnias that are ready. And behind those zinnias, there's a couple of little lisianthus as well, which are very sweet, very cute. And I am really happy to be getting a second flush off of them. The snapdragon stems are not as long as they were when we first started harvesting them back in June. But hey, it's late September. I'm going to take what I can get. Down in this corner of the garden, I'm finding tons of stuff to harvest too. There's some more big snapdragons. There's a lot of celosia, and as long as I dodge the sleeping bees, it's not a problem to harvest it. There's also several zinnias, and look guys, my big pink dahlias are finally coming into bloom. I've probably harvested 6 stems off of this plant in the last week, and it shows no signs of stopping. I could not be happier about this. I also wanted to show y'all this buckwheat that I've just recently started harvesting. My husband's been planting it as a cover crop all season because the pollinators love it and it grows really fast and enriches the soil. But I've really only started using it in my bouquets, and I don't know what took me so long. It's super cute. It has that lovely sense of movement when it wiggles around in the top of the other flowers. And you know how I feel about pink blossoms. So yeah, this is going to be a staple for me going forward, I think. I gotta say, it was a good day.
This is the time of year when everything starts to look a little bit trashed, and yet still producing like gangbusters. I wanted to show you what's happening with those babies that we planted out a couple weeks ago in the side yard bed. For the most part, they are doing okay, but look at what these little jagoff squirrels do. They dig the stuff up all the time. It's very annoying. So you can see most of them are doing great. The Orlea did not make it, and I've had a couple of other casualties of the squirrels, but the snaps are growing, the sweet williams are growing, the foxgloves and the campanulas in the back row are growing. So I'm excited. And check this out. The Mexican sunflower finally started blooming as well. And there are tons of buds on this plant. Over here in the hollyhock bed, the zinnias are starting to look pretty spent. I might rip these out soon. But the hollyhocks are still very cute and very amenable to our pollinator population. This one's going to keep blooming for a while. This big boy hasn't even started blooming yet. And look at this one. This is a color that we haven't seen before. And there are blooms all the way up to the sky. The bee balm that I planted many months ago just finally put out the one tiniest bloom of all time. But that's okay, because it looks like it's going to come back strong next year. Plus all those little feverfew that I cut back and planted, you can see they're all growing back. And the ones that, of course, the ones that had roots are much stronger than the babies that we put in, right? Like here's a baby, and here's one that I just chopped back. So I don't know if there's going to be room for all of these here, but we'll let them go into the spring and see what happens. Check out the snapdragons we planted in the green stalk, like 4 weeks ago?
When we planted out these snapdragons, the idea was that they were going to stay teensy, make it through the winter, and then grow big and give me blooms first thing in the spring. That is not what has happened. They have sprung right up and they look like they're getting ready to bloom, which I'm not mad about it we have probably another couple of months for it to be snapdragon time. So if I get a bunch of fresh snapdragon blooms, that's going to be amazing. I also remembered that I had this little trellis that goes in the green stalk, so I added that in to help them not flop. And looking up on the top 2 tiers, the zinnia seedlings and cuttings that we transplanted out here at the end of August are doing pretty well. They do have powdery mildew, as does every zinnia on my property at this point, but they're still blooming. I've harvested several blooms off of these already, and some of them are getting ready to go again. So it looks like our experiment was pretty successful.
I've been chatting with some local flower farmers recently, and one thing they do that I didn't really do this year is succession planting. That's when you start your plants, and then like a month later, you start another round, and the month after that, you start a third round. And what that lets you do is experience that magical first flush of flowers multiple times through the season. You guys remember what my snapdragons looked like back in June? They were insane. They were massive. They were super strong. And the ones I have now are great. I will continue to harvest them and enjoy them all season. But if I could have that magical first flush multiple times, I want it. So yeah, that's what we're going to try next season. Lord knows I have enough seeds to make it a reality. Fall is officially here. Things are starting to go over, but I am doing okay, and I hope you are too. Let's look at some arrangements.
I have so many to show you today, starting with this pinky, coppery, purpley one. You can see my little green and white euphorbia filler there. I only got a few stems of that this season. It's one of my favorites though, so I'm hoping I can get a lot more next year. You see that dahlia coming around the bottom. You see the little pink buckwheat wiggling in the breeze, and the orange and pink and yellow zinnia in there. This was a really sweet one. I'm leaning into the pinks and the oranges even more on this one, with a couple of pops of white cosmos and those big fuchsia amaranths sticking up out of the middle. Those were stunning. They're much like the celosia in shape, but much more saturated in color. I'm really glad I experimented with those this year. And check out that little orange coral piece coming around the top. So cute. Now these two are a lot of the same tones, but just different saturations. On the left, we have some bright pinks, some deep purples, and some peachy zinnias and dahlias. On the right, we've got more pink zinnias, but we have also more white flowers, a little feverfew, some parchment colored zinnias, and tons of white and pink apple blossom snapdragons. I love them both with my whole heart. Here's the more saturated one from the top, and you can really see the colors here and how cute that buckwheat is. Now we've got a Coco Loco rose. The left picture is the day that I picked it, and the right picture was just the following day. They grow up so fast. Finally, here is a pic of the whole clique. This week I discovered that this time of year, when the sun's going down, it reflects off the windows of the house across the street, and it makes some really beautiful lighting in my dining room, so I wanted to share that with you. Thanks as always for joining me today, for looking at my flowers, and caring about my garden. You don't know how much I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to follow along, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one, my friends. Bye for now.